Welcome back to episode 4 of Show and Tell. This is my small tribute to members of the Magic community and their unique paths to content creation. And as always, just trying to help build what I would like to think is a better community. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by the artist, TikToker, new popper advocate, Tori of the Vast. Tori, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Fun fact, her last name really is of the Vast. It just happened to match a Magic card. Like, talk about serendipity. Like, you were almost destined to be a Magic player.
It is. It's actually on my passport, too. So,
Oh,
for those who don't believe me, I'll show you.
Awesome. So, Tori, talking kind of before, you are relatively new to the Magic world. I think you said you really only started playing about like last year, like 2021.
Yeah, I actually started playing Magic in January of 2021.
So what got you
Super
interested
new.
in that's let me tell you, some people like I've been playing since junior high, and like these people come in and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, well.
I started late to the game.
What got you interested in playing the game?
So I actually got into Magic because of my friend Mark, who is best friends with one of my exes, and they started playing Magic together because they played as kids. They got together and each got each other Magic cards for Christmas as like a joke. They got the new Commander set and decided they were going to play it. So I decided I also wanted to be involved. I was like, this sounds kind of fun. Maybe I'll get a deck. So I bought some like Mutate Precon, and
Nice.
once I learned the mechanics of it, I decided to make my own Commander deck. And when I went to Nova Games, shout out to Nova Games and Brick, I talked to people at the counter and they asked me what I was looking for in a deck, what I liked, and I told them, well, I don't really know anything about Magic too much outside of what I've been exposed to, but I'm a big fan of dragons. So they showed me Kalia, and I was like, this sounds pretty sweet. And they're like, yeah, it's got a whole bunch of stuff in it that you'll like if you build it the right way. So I did, and that's what got me hooked, is playing Commander with my friends. Especially, like, I found out a bunch of people that I knew played Magic. I didn't even know. Yeah. So Commander was kind of like my foot in the door. So.
It was very cool. I think more and more people are finding Commander the entry point into Magic, which is funny because a lot of people will say don't learn to play Magic through Commander. I think because of like the level of complexity you get with multiplayer. But I'm not sure how true that is these days. I think just because there's so many players out there, it's almost worth it just to kind of jump into Commander, pay your dues, learning. But once you kind of like, if you can master, if you can figure out Commander, you can figure out Magic. Like you're gonna kind of get a better understanding from the get go, I think.
I had a lot of people ask me about that, actually. They asked me how learning Magic through Commander was, considering it is very complex because, there's 100 cards, and they're all different except for the lands. So, it's definitely a lot more to learn as opposed to a 60-card deck. But I did find the advantage of learning off of Commander was I learned about so many sets. So I learned about a lot of the old cards, a lot of the new cards. I got exposed to a lot of the artwork, which was nice because there was so much, variety in all the different decks. And there's also a lot of mechanics I learned through playing with a bunch of cards, because obviously certain mechanics are only relevant in certain sets, but when you get to blend them into an entire deck, you definitely pick up on mechanics faster, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was actually a lot easier for me to transition into a constructed format, having known, like what all these different types of mechanics on the cards mean. So I think it was kind of an advantage.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the amount of like synergies and kind of like ways you can build your deck. I know that's what kind of drew me into Commander, was like, oh, I like Knights a lot, so I'm gonna make a Knights tribal deck. And really big on tribal, actually. Now that I think about it, most of my decks are like Vampire tribal or Knights tribal, which is not the most original way to go, but like it's cool. Like I get to buy a bunch of cards and put them together. And I like your thought. You made a comment about like the art, like learning the art. I think that's kind of a really underrated aspect of Magic. Is there's like a lot of really cool fantasy art on the cards, which I think actually I heard somewhere that I think Magic makes up like 80 or 85% of like the fantasy art market, like in total, like totality. They buy that much chunk of like the fantasy art market, which is kind of crazy to think about. One kind of card game dominating one area of art like in the world. So
It is. There's a huge art market for it too. Like, aside from people just buying cards, like I'm in some Facebook groups where people trade like original drawings or concept art by the artists, and it's pretty big. It's wild.
Yeah. And you started with the Mutate deck. Mutate, gosh, of things to start with, I think Mutate is one of those weird things that even now it's like people are like, oh, like how does that work, or like how does this interaction kind of work, or this or that. It's pretty intense.
When I tell you I played it wrong for like a month, I thought you had to pay like the card CMC cost and the mutate cost to mutate it after. I didn't know you could like play it for just the cost. So I was like, this deck is impossible. Like, I don't understand. I was so upset, and then I realized I was playing it wrong, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's funny. I mean, I played Magic. I started playing during the Urza block. Granted, I don't know. At some point, like my friend in college taught me how to use how the stack worked, and I was like, oh, well, this is cool. Like this makes the game a lot more interesting. But before, my friends and I would do stuff like, if you put like something on a creature that was whatever, like, oh, I just sacrificed this creature. Like I don't want to, this bad effect. But it's like, oh no, you can't do that. I always joke like I went to college, like I learned how to really play Magic. Then I came home, and all my local friends, like I was like, let me teach you, my children, how you play Magic the real way. Did you play any other card games before Magic, or was this kind of your first foray into tabletop card gaming?
I played Pokemon a little bit, but like just casually with my friends, never like in a competitive scene or like actually going to a game store to play it. So Magic's definitely like my first TCG that I'm actually like playing, like seriously playing. And then within the past like 3 months, I want to say, no, it's only April. Wow. The past 2 months, I've actually like started going to I went to more Friday Night Magics. I went to the SCG in Philly to attempt to play the 10K. I played at a 1K a couple weeks ago. So now I'm trying to just like get myself out there.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I've been to one Friday Night Magic. It was actually when the first Ravnica set was released, just Ravnica. And I was like, I've never drafted before. It was a draft, I never drafted. I don't like limited, not my thing. I got destroyed by like a bunch of people who are just, probably like 5 or 6 or 7 years younger than me. And I was just like, I had a friend in college who drafted all the time. He's like, I think at the time the strategy was like, bread, bombs, removal. I forgot the E and the A and the D. I don't know. I just remember bombs. Oh, evasion. I don't remember the A or the D. I don't know. So like, I was like, okay, I have a strategy, and I pulled these cards, and I was just like, ooh, this is the rare. I'll take the rare. Ooh, this one looks good, and it was just, this deck doesn't make any sense at all.
I tried it once. My deck was trash.
Yeah.
And when I built it, I was like so proud of myself. I was like, this is gonna slap. I made humans and werewolves. Like, it's gonna be sick. It's like red green. Like, I got so many creatures in it, and like the entire night, I was just like, this is so bad. And then I wound up getting matched up like the 3rd round with my friend, and he's like, I haven't won a game since. And I was like, are you on red green? He's like, yes. I was like, we built the same shitty deck. Let's go. And I was like, one of us has to win.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like competitive stuff, like for me, I get too paranoid about like the rules of competitiveness. Like, what if I sideboard wrong, or like what if I do this, or like there's the time frame stuff. I'm just like, I don't know. I get too anxious about things. But there's definitely like the cool thing about Magic is there's the casual aspect and there's the competitive aspect, which. Speaking of the competitive aspect, I know you have kind of been transitioning a little bit from Commander to some more competitive formats. I know you've been playing Modern.
Right.
And as I kind of mentioned earlier, you've kind of jumped into Pauper, which is a pretty fun little format. So, like, what first of all, what got you to Modern? And then what about Pauper has kind of like has taken your attention over there as well?
So I got into Modern because some of my friends were playing, and they told me that I should try it out, that I would really like it. So a couple of my buddies proxied me a deck. My friend Connor actually proxied me a deck and told me to come to the store, try it out, see if I like it. I did. I went and played a couple games with him, and I was like, ooh, this is really fun. Like, it was the Boros Burn deck that I'm actually on now. So playing with him was really cool, and he also started inviting me out to Pauper Night, which I started playing a couple months ago. I have like a little Slivers deck, but now that I've been playing it more often, I actually just put together a nice Rakdos deck. It just got finished today.
Nice.
So yeah, at the store, or my local game store, they've been trying to do like more of a Pauper scene and set up our Friday Night Magics are all Pauper, trying to set up some tournaments, and I just personally think it's the best format. I love it. One, because it's unique. Like, you see a lot of cards that you don't normally see because they're commons. The decks are super affordable, which we love. We love that.
Yes.
Modern is a little pricey. That's the only thing holding me back from really going very deep in Modern right now is, you know, a good deck can cost you quite the pretty penny. So I've been just holding off. But with Pauper, like, I just built my deck for $39.
Yeah,
which for Magic is pretty insane, considering I have, like, you know, dual lands in Kalia, and I'm like, wow, I could have made, like, the entire meta of Pauper with that one dual land. So I definitely encourage everyone to try that, especially if you're looking to get into a, you know, competitive or a constructed format, because it is so cheap and it's accessible to anybody. But yeah, that's definitely been my jam lately is Pauper.
Yeah, I think so. Pauper's cool because I think one of the biggest, I don't know, problems is like a lot of times with Magic cards, like the mana bases, like especially when you kind of get into some more Eternal or older forms like Modern, or even Commander, is like the lands, like you kind of need them a lot of times, but they can get, you know.
Oh yeah.
I have, you know, for how long, for as many Magic cards that I have, and how much money I've spent playing Magic cards, and like whatever, like, I own 0 dual lands because I cannot justify to myself like that level of investment. Maybe one day, but yeah, it's just like I can see a format like Pauper, because sometimes, you know, obviously when you have a format where you're limited to, you know, is it uncommons and commons, or is it just commons? I can't remember.
It's just commons.
Just commons. So like obviously restrictions build innovation, which is always pretty cool. So like, and when you have a format where, like, I feel like it's a lot more even playing field in a lot of ways, and you're going to get really you talk about being a competitive format. I think like your skill level really kind of shines in that kind of situation where it's just like, oh, I play, you know, I have all the dual lands and whatever, and like, and you don't, so I'm gonna win, sort of thing. Which is probably another conversation we'll get into later when we start talking about proxies, because I know that's kind of a big thing. I think you do
the
too,
P word.
The P word, I know, right? This blacklists me from who knows. There's so much proxy drama lately, or always, I guess, but
always, yes.
Always. But yeah, you know, it's cool, and like I can imagine, we were kind of talking before this, how Commander's cool. Commander's a fun casual format, and there is a competitive format, but you know, there's like Modern and Pauper, you can be competitive in a way that you kind of can't with Commander, especially like if you don't want to go full, I guess, CEDH with just like Commander. It's like if you are playing to win, that could almost be looked at as like kind of like a, I don't want to say a bad thing, but like people might be like, oh, well, you know, we're just trying to have fun or whatever. And I don't know. I have weird opinions. Like, I don't think Commander and CEDH being two separate things is like should be a thing. I think that's kind of a weird to have like the same format but not. But that's, you know, that's probably a conversation for a different day. But how have you found the competitive aspects of like Modern and Pauper? And like, do you find that's almost like a different sort of joy you get out of than like maybe playing Commander, or even more fun, or just, you know, is it different? Or
it's definitely different. It's definitely I don't want to say it's more fun to play Modern, because, you know, it's fun when you win. It's not as fun when you lose. Yes. But I think that's the difference with Modern and Commander. Was like when I play Commander, I don't really care if I lose. I'm just hanging out with my friends half the time. If it's in person, we're like ordering DoorDash and laughing and just like saying stupid shit to each other, and whoever wins wins. Yeah. But like when I'm going to like play constructed formats or 1v1, like the point of the game is to win. That's why I'm playing it, you know. So it's definitely like, it's still fun. I wouldn't play if I wasn't having fun, but there's a little more pressure to do better. And I don't think it's a pressure in like a bad way where it's like, I have to be the best or else I'm the worst. It's like, I want to get better because it's like a skill, you know. It's like, I want to get smarter at this and think outside the box, and it's like a personal growth when I feel like I play those kinds of formats. Like, it's more challenging.
Yeah.
I think. Whereas Commander, like, could be challenging, but I don't feel that pressure to like really be like, oh shit, I have to do something right now or I'm gonna be dead this turn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I still love playing Commander with my friends. I remember I was mentioning to you that I definitely want to start streaming Constructed more, only because I feel like it is something I don't see as much of in person on Spell Table. That's why I've been trying to play like Modern and Pauper on Spell Table, because it's cool to still play paper, but, you know, with people from all over. I definitely think that everybody should try it, because I feel like it also just gives you different aspects on things in Magic as well.
Yeah. That's good. Do you think you're, would you say you're a competitive person?
I think I'm competitive, but I also am realistic.
Okay.
Like, I signed up for the 10K in Philly, and it was my first time actually playing, like, in-person Modern, because before that I've only played on Spell Table.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I'm gonna do horrible. Like, I was like, I told everybody, they were like, good luck, you're gonna do great. I was like, I'm not. I was like, but that's okay. So the whole point of me going to that was, if I'm gonna get my feet wet, I might as well just jump in the whole fucking pool.
Yeah.
And see how it is.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I don't think I'm, like, hyper competitive. I just kind of, like, especially, like, I feel like it's weird to be super competitive playing if you are one of those people who gets, like, your emotions get to where you treat people differently.
Oh, yeah. No, that's, you definitely got to separate, like, it's okay, I think, to get frustrated in competitive formats, but you can't let that, like, affect other people, or, like, you gotta maintain a balance, at least, especially with your attitude, or, like...
Yeah, and you don't want it to ruin your time. Like, there was times where, like, I've played and I've grossly misplayed and, like, literally knew I was like, oh my god, I just killed myself. I'm gonna lose this match. This sucks. But, like, I would never try to act in a way where it takes away from the other person's win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So I try to, like, make sure I don't ever reflect, like, that when I lose.
Yeah,
but I'm sure as I get better, I'll be more competitive. Right now, I know I'm like, I'm not good enough to be that competitive yet.
That's funny. I joke that I'm competitive and unrealistic, which comes from years of playing organized sports, like youth sports, and being raised in, like, a sports household. Like, I drag my butt to the basketball courts and play pickup basketball all the time. And I'm always like, I don't care who I'm going to play. Like, we could, you know, just go out and be tough. Like, we can win. And I lose a lot, and I get frustrated, but... but, like, you know, it's fun. Like, a lot of times you play games to win, you know. You want to see people kind of giving effort, and
yeah.
I even remember when Arena first launched, it was kind of like, oh, like, you can play online, and there's, you know, back when, you know, the world will know your name. That was kind of like the big thing. And I remember, like, I told my wife I was like, you know, I think I might try to, like, really push at this thing, like, because I was like, of my friends, I was like the good Magic player of my friends, but, you know, we played probably wrong, and we played, like, whatever Magic. So then, like, actually playing, like, oh, you know, I'm gonna play Standard and whatever, and I was just like, oh, I'm not that good at this. Like, this is not something really for me that I'm gonna put too much effort in. But I don't think.
Oh yeah, once I sat down at that table, I was like, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? I was like, oh no.
And sometimes I'll watch streamers and stuff, and I'll see, like, interactions and, you know, triggers, and I think to myself, man, if I was doing this in paper, I would be so confused about what's going on. Like, Arena has kind of, you know, it's been a blessing and a curse, because, like, I don't think half the competitive decks I'd be able to pilot, because there's just so much going on.
Oh, absolutely. I also feel like I have to, like, get over being kind of shy, because I always, like, forget to do things on people's end steps because I feel too nervous to speak, because they'll be, like, talking and I'll just be like, in response
It's like, excuse me?
on your end step, because I'm, like, scared. I'm like, oh, I gotta start just being like, no, in response I'm gonna do this thing, but instead I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's I've only played one game over Spell Table, because, like, I was super nervous about, like, jumping in with random people or whatever. I luckily got to play with some people I knew, and it was fun. But even then, I was just like, the whole time I was just like, okay, don't say anything dumb. Like, don't overstep. Like, oh, what are my hands? Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I saying? Like, can they hear me? Am I talking out loud, or am I just thinking this? Like, what is going on? So, too funny. That's literally the most magic I've ever talked on this show. I usually don't get too deep into it because I don't know. That's cool to hear. Like, I encourage Pauper. I think I actually have a Pauper deck. I have a Pauper Elves deck I made.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, so I think
We'd love to see it.
Yeah, it's probably a little outdated. Well, I don't know if there's been any. I'll have to check it out. But I do have a Pauper Elves deck. So if we ever end up at a same, I don't even know what you call them, con or show or whatever, I'll definitely join you at a Pauper table after some Commander or something because I'm just down to play. It's always fun. So, so slight transition, but I think you kind of really burst on the scene, well, a few ways, but I think a lot of people I know because of your kind of TikTok fame. Like that's kind of been your, I guess your biggest medium. I try to remember if that's where I saw you first, or I think I saw a lot of your proxies, which again we'll get to. But I wanted to kind of talk about TikTok a little bit because you've had some success on TikTok, I must say. Pretty impressive numbers.
Thanks.
What do you think about TikTok? Like TikTok to me is interesting as a medium. It's weird. I didn't get it. I technically don't still get it because the way I use it is not right, which is funny. You can't really how do you have a wrong way of using a social media? But I definitely use it wrong, but that's okay. But like, what has been your experience with TikTok? Like, what I know you. We'll shout out the Snapcast because I know you talked a lot about some of your TikTok. That's hard to say really fast. TikTok success over there, but why don't you for my own sake, like what got you into TikTok and like what really kind of launched you out and like what do you think of it as a platform?
So I got into TikTok because I was just somebody on there watching and doom scrolling every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And one day I remember I was frustrated because I was trying to buy cards for my Kali deck and I was like still new to Magic, so I was like, oh, I need to get these dual lands that everyone's talking about. And I looked it up and I was like, holy shit. But I also found like the alpha ones, so they were like $7,000.
Yeah.
So I had like a minor heart attack, and then I just like, I don't know why, but like there was a trending sound. I pulled my phone out. I was like, oh, I want to make a joke about this dual land. I didn't even know there was like an MTG TikTok or anything like that. So I posted it and just tagged like Magic the Gathering, and then like it didn't blow up, but it got like 30,000 views, which for me I was like, holy shit, like that's a lot of plays for someone with like like no followers.
That's still pretty big. The 30,000 is, if that's not blowing up, then I don't want to. It's still pretty good.
Well, compared to like the big creators, so I was like, holy shit, this is wild. And people started following me, like, oh, like, I was like, oh, this could be kind of fun. Like I can make I love making people laugh. I love joking around. I love making freaking memes and stupid shit. So I was like, oh, I'll just keep doing this. So I started just kind of like memeing my experiences with like buying cards, getting into Magic, which was mostly like you don't know what you're getting yourself into money wise, which was like the joke for a lot of it. I think TikTok is great. I think it's a great place to meet people in the community because that's where I met like two of my best friends, MTG Girl and Louis Stardust. I met them through this, and now we are all like three little peas in a pod.
Yep.
So it's definitely great for meeting people and networking. I think it's fun. I think it's a fun way to be creative and express yourself because there's really like so much you could do. Like I know people who do pack openings, people who do paintings on top of cards, people who just make jokes or deck tech. Like there's just an array of ways to use your skills.
Yeah.
And it's also brought me a lot of success. Like I wound up getting some partners out of it and doing some advertisements.
Yeah.
And it's, shown me also cool products. Like I'm an affiliate with Pinfinity and started doing TikToks for Pinfinity. And now like I love everybody that's involved with that company. All the affiliates are great. So it's just a great way to like really meet everybody. And I wouldn't be as successful as I am without it. That's definitely where I like got my start. That's
great. I mean, so Pinfinity is cool. That's one of those things where they make awesome pins, and
they do.
I'm a collector. Like I collect cards mostly cards, but actually when I was younger, my dad and I used to collect pins.
Oh, that's awesome.
We started with when the World Cup, I think it was the World Cup was in Los Angeles, and then there was like these Coke bottles that were country themed, and they came with a little pin of I can't remember the dog's name. It was like the mascot. I don't know if he was just that year the World Cup mascot, or if he was there for a while. But it was like basically him holding a flag of all the the countries in the World Cup, and so we started collecting those, and there was like a thing, and we had it framed, and then we just started collecting World Cup pins, and then it just became pins. So like I keep seeing those pop up and people have them. I've seen you post them, and it's like I could feel it deep inside. Like it's like that meme from Community. It's like, I hope this doesn't awaken something inside of me, because I know if I buy one, it's game over, because it's like pins and magic stuff. Like it's,
Oh yeah.
I just don't have disposable income. It's just burning a hole in my pocket. I see those pins. So but yeah, it's
I
just
hear ya.
yeah, it can be rough. So well, that's cool. TikTok. Yeah, I think it gets a I think a unfair rap a lot of times, because there's a lot of I think it's older people who maybe don't understand it, and like it's just, for the most part, I think it's just people having fun. Like I think it's like a fun sort of app. Like there's the sounds, and you can chase. I think you can kind of chase clout with it a lot of ways, which some people do, which may be kind of whatever. But and generally speaking, like most things, like as long as you're enjoying what you're doing on it, I think that's
Yeah.
like I joke about how like I don't use it right. So I literally all I do is haikus, right? I'll take a magic card and I'll write a haiku about it. And that's it. And I'll pick a song, music that kind of maybe associates with it. Sometimes if there's like a trending sound, I'll try to like find a magic card that kind of fits with the trending sound and write it like that. But I don't do dances. I don't do, which you wouldn't want to see anyways. Or maybe I
You
don't
should do the dances while you read the haikus.
maybe
That would
that's probably what would really launch me into stardom, is seeing this awkward lanky guy. Like it'd be bad, but maybe good, bad. I don't know.
I'd watch.
Yeah. So like that's it. So I'm like, I'm gonna use this just for this purpose, and like that's what I want to use it for. And you know what? It's been fun. Like I enjoy it. I've met some cool people on it, and I enjoy the creative. I mean, I don't think I'm like a great poet, but I enjoy like the creative aspect of like, I give myself, when I pick a card, I only give myself like 10 or 15 minutes to write a haiku about it, because I don't want to like overthink them a lot of ways. And I think that's part of the reason why I enjoy haikus. I think there should be kind of like spur of the moment sort of things, but
Mhm.
I think it's cool. Like at first I was kind of whatever, but it's like I get it now. And there's still things like I go through, and if I'm scrolling through, I got to make sure like on the magic TikTok, 'cause sometimes my wife will be behind me, and all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, there's a bunch of random women like dancing in bathing suits. Like we're just gonna keep going. That's not what that's what I'll use this for, I swear. But I know, and again, I don't want to. I'm going to shout out again. I'm going to point to the Snapcast podcast, because I know you kind of went over like stuff you found to be very useful for like kind of getting views and likes on TikTok, which people should go listen to that episode, because you're hilarious. I mean, you're all hilarious on it, but like specifically, like I was saying, I really enjoyed listening to all you guys talk about that. So if people are interested in Tori the Vast Guide to TikTok, like go check out the Snapcast episode 2. So you had kind of mentioned you got to meet some of your friends. So I was thinking when I was thinking about sitting down with you, like there's like obvious questions sometimes when you have like a game like Magic, and like you have like a woman come on and like, well, so tell me about your experience of being a woman and woman in gaming, because there could be a lot of gatekeeping and whatever. Which, if you are interested in talking about that, we can. But like, I don't really want to talk about that. But like, what I'm interested in is what I see all the time is like I see you talked about Lua and you talk about MTG Girl, and like I always see all of you advocating for each other, and always like tweeting, and always like such positive messages. And for me, I'm really like I like community building. I think like the Magic community is great, and I think we can build a good community, and we can continue to build good community. And I think a lot of times, especially like when it comes to content creators and content creation, it can be viewed I don't want to say cutthroat, but a lot of people think it's like a zero-sum game. And
Right.
I have a big background in like photography, and I did wedding photography for a while, and it was very similar, where a lot of wedding photographers, when I was starting out, I would ask them questions, and they really were hesitant to tell me like, oh, like, what do you think about this, or what do you think about this pricing? And the thought is like, oh, like, do you think I'm going to steal your clients? Like, do you think is that, which I guess I could understand, but there's so many people out there. Like, there's so much like views, I think, to go around, that it's really easy to like shield yourself off from everyone. So anytime I see like these groups of people kind of talking and hanging out and just spreading positivity, like, I'm like, see, this is the stuff I don't think people really see about, especially like gaming culture, which is awesome. So tell me, I mean, you met MTG Girl and Lua on like TikTok. So how did that evolve? Like, how did you guys become friends? Like, what was that like meeting someone on TikTok and becoming becoming friends with them? And like, from what I would see as like an outsider, like good friends. It seems like to me, like you guys, the way you talk, like, oh yeah, those are like three really good friends, and like that's really awesome to see.
Yeah. I met MTG Girl, or Beck, as some people know her as well. I just started following her on TikTok actually after I started, noticing what MTG TikTok was. And then I wound up making my Twitter and deciding to go on there to network a little bit more. And I just messaged her one day and was just like, oh, I really like your content. I think you're really funny, and just, how's your day? What do you do for a living? Like, where do you... I'm a very friendly, outgoing person. So whenever I see somebody, I'm like, oh, our vibes totally match. I want to get to know them. And me and her became really good friends. I met Lua also through Magic online as well, and the three of us just kind of one day decided to talk about, gaming in the community and, getting a pod together sometime, and we found out that we all have, like, so much in common, and now they're two of my, like, I'll say, like, best friends. Like, I talk to them every day. And what's nice about everybody I've met through the community too, even outside of just Beck and Lua, everybody's just so supportive and kind. And what I really love about it is, with the friendships I've made, nobody is in like kind of like how you mentioned with the photography, no one's in competition of each other. It's like we want to see everyone succeed.
Yes.
So I've received like a ton of help from bigger creators on how to get your engagement up, ways to market yourself that you might not think about, how to do better, like how to be a better streamer, how to entertain better, and how to be more engaging with viewers on Twitch when I was very new to that. And also learning more about different games, different communities. If you watch MTG Girl's content, you'll see she's really big in Digimon right now. So now I've been forced to start getting into Digimon because I have to get into that also.
Yeah,
so
it's
fun.
It looks cool. She's been putting out, her and Jake Boss have been putting out awesome.
They're so good.
Yeah, it's great, for sure. It's like, even something like, if I'm like, am I gonna have to buy it? Am I gonna make a Digimon deck now? Is that
absolutely? It's so fun.
Yeah.
But it's really great. It's great to have a community, and like you were saying earlier, it's also just great to have, women in the community as well, because, their understanding of things that go on in your life and some of the insecurities you may have as a woman, or, some of the challenges that we do face. So it's nice to have outlets to talk about that shared experience with. So it's definitely important.
Yeah, I think there's a very big importance in terms of building strong community. I think you guys, for me, like, I looked at it as like, okay, there are strong community out there. I think, like you said, shared experiences make a big difference, especially with like women in gaming. And I think a lot of times, like, representation matters a lot of time in these games, where they get, people look at it like, oh, it's just a bunch of, for whatever, like, white nerdy dudes who just play Magic, and like they have a reputation. There's like this gatekeeping stigma, but it's like, you can point to people like, no, there are a lot of people who are more than willing to reach out and play with you, interact, and like, you can find people out there who have the same sort of experiences as you and sort of interests as you, and you can build these real relationships. And like, to me, that's like what I find most interesting. And I've kind of focused in on Magic specifically, but just in generally in my life, in terms of like, I don't know, finding, I don't know, this does sound like wax philosophical, but like finding meaning, but like that kind of stuff, like what makes people tick, and like interactions, and the kind of the point of the show is like building out a better community, and like meeting people and talking and like making friends with people, and like making those network connections where like you build this kind of framework of like all these kind of like fun and interesting people to know. So yeah, I think you guys are all great. Like I met Beck. Well, I met her. She was at Vegas, the Channel Fireball event, and um, she signed a Glimmer Baron card for me in her
That's
costume.
awesome.
So yeah, it was. I don't. She must have been so hot. The costume looked ridiculous. So I think I gave her. I had an extra etched foil one I gave her just like as like oh well, I thought you would think this was cool, and then she signed one for me, so I have that somewhere. But she was super nice, and like I always liked her. I mean, she was really funny. But I remember I think I found her on Twitter, and like she follows me back on Twitter like when she was relatively new, and I was like, oh cool, like this cool person's following me back. Like I feel so special. But she's always been like seems super cool. But and Lewis seems super cool. I've never had any interactions with her, but everything I've seen her on, everyone seems to just adore her, and she seems really fun. And I just think like seeing those sort of things are important for the community and just in general, or any real kind of community, at large. But especially I think in a lot of gaming circles, I think it makes a big impact on like kind of what people see, who kind of represents the game. Because in a lot of ways, there's a weird like dichotomy of like the Magic world. I think there's a lot of like internet, YouTube, Reddit world, and then there's like kitchen table Magic. And kitchen table Magic might be in their own world, like just don't know about anyone or anything. But then there's like Reddit, YouTube, Magic world, where like like people like the Professor or like game nights. But then like but as content creator, as people like you kind of like become representative of the game, it's you kind of fortunately or unfortunately, there's kind of like this, I don't want to say burden, but like you become a reflection of the game in a lot of ways. And I think when people like you are reflective of the game, like I like, that's cool. Like if someone was like, oh yeah, well Tori, Tori the Vast, I know her, like she plays Magic, like I know Magic because of her. I'm like, okay, cool. You probably have a great impression of Magic because Tori's freaking awesome. And like that's the kind of stuff, that's the kind of things that like I think are important, and I think that Magic needs more of. And that's again what I'm, I guess, trying to do with my little corner of the world. But yeah, so I just I think that's always great to see. I like to see the enthusiasm. I like to see the support, and I like to see like just people propping people up. Like I think that's great.
Yeah, and I'm also trying to be like very transparent as like a new person in this game too.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like trying to play, I guess you could say, competitively by going to these events and stuff. Like I straight up just go on Twitter and I'm like, yo, I just bombed so bad. But like it's fun, and it's also fun to meet so many people too on that side of Magic who have been like really helpful and supportive on like learning the game and learning the mechanics, and willing to help prepare you for events and stuff. Like it's been really cool to see that side as well.
Oh yeah, there's definitely like especially with social media, it's easy to kind of get in a pattern of just you only show your victories, you never show your failures, and that kind of presents a false a false image of like how you present your world. And I think when and I remember you posting about, I think you bombing a modern turn or whatever. Like I think that's I mean it's good to see that, because it's like, oh, like I have never won anything related to Magic. Like it's good to see I'm not just like, oh, everyone's always winning and this cool stuff. But like again, I think it's a good and healthy thing to do, because we all fail. Like no one's perfect, so like you're gonna have your ups and your downs, and there's nothing wrong with being like, oh yeah, I was telling you earlier, I went to a Friday Night Magic event and just got my ass handed to me by everybody, and I was just like, whatever, this is cool. Like I got to play Ravnica for the first time. Like whatever, man. Like this is great.
Yeah. So. There's you gotta just have a silver lining with it. That's like I told my boyfriend. I'm like, every time we go to an event, you can always count on me to probably be the one to drop early and get a Starbucks. So
see, that's
silver lining.
Definitely a keeper right there. If I was having Starbucks, that's heck yes. What's your Starbucks drink? What's your go-to?
I usually get a oat milk latte with cinnamon powder.
Okay, so I have two drinks. They both, one sounds super pretentious and one of them's only slightly pretentious, which is funny because like I normally get a grande iced blonde caramel macchiato upside down, so it's the blonde espresso.
Upside down.
Yeah, it puts the caramel on the bottom instead of the top, and I feel like it helps mix the flavor a little more, because if it's on top, sometimes it's really thick and like you get it all and it's just like coffee, but it's on the bottom.
You don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that.
And then one of my coworkers had me try this drink, which I hate ordering, and it's one of those drinks that politicians are like, well, these kids they're buying Starbucks and they can't afford houses, and this is like one of those drinks because it's like $7 for a tall.
It's like $7. Yeah.
It's a iced chai tea latte with oat milk, a pump of brown sugar, and vanilla foam, and they told me about it, and I was like, that sounds
so good.
But it's delicious. I'm just
gonna get that tomorrow.
Yeah, it's so good. So it's like it's got to be a special treat because it's so pricey. I mean, not to say that my other drink isn't expensive, but like $7 for a drink is a little ridiculous. But sometimes you just gotta you gotta treat yourself, you know.
Today was free coffee day at Wawa, so
Wawa.
Had to take advantage of that. Yeah.
I don't, I'm from California. I don't know Wawa.
Oh, right. It's a convenience store.
It's like
gas station.
Like a 7-Eleven type, but not.
It's like a little step up from a 7-Eleven.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I can respect. I actually think we lack. I think because California is so big and spread out, we kind of lack a lot of those little things. I always joke. Right. So like my family, or my dad's from Scotland, so I've been to Scotland a few times, and like those sort of convenience stores, like that's kind of like where you go to like get your groceries and stuff. They don't really have like big like traditional grocery stores, and I think especially like on the East Coast, you go and like you get like your snacks or your food or whatever. And out here, like we don't really have that. Like we have 7-Elevens and stuff, but like you're not going to you go to 7-Eleven because you're just like
I want a snack.
Yeah, I need a bag of Ruffles, or I need a Monster, or I need an ice, whatever.
I don't want to feel good, so I'm gonna go to 7-Eleven and get M&Ms and like a Bang. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I worked at a Best Buy for 10 years, and like Bang was like their Monster or their energy drink of choice for like the majority of it. I'm like, what is this? Like, why?
The rainbow unicorn one is so good.
Oh God,
so good.
Oh, anyways, so Starbucks aside, if you get that drink, let me know. Let me know what you think of it. You'll probably change your life and your bank account. So I wanted to kind of move on and talk about art, because you are an artist.
I am.
I joke as a photographer, I lack any real art skills. I just push a button, I capture images. But I think you are. So what's your medium of choice? Like, how would you describe yourself?
Well, I definitely do a few different types of art. I love doing colored pencil artwork.
Okay.
But the only problem is with colored pencils is it's very time consuming. It starts to cramp your hand, and I can't really do it for too long because I just set everything up. So I started using an iPad.
Okay.
And using Procreate. I think it's amazing. That's where I draw all of my stickers, all of my proxies, alter artworks, all of my fan art, and all of the art I also do. I drew a lot of houses, buildings, and eateries. So that's the other art that I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really fun. My art has been like in my family for a long time. My grandfather was an artist. My sister is an artist, and she's also a tattoo artist over in New Jersey.
Oh.
I'm definitely not nearly as good as her, but I really do love digital art. I think there's just so much potential with it, especially with like apps like Procreate. There's just so much you could do. But yeah, it's definitely one of my hobbies. It's definitely not like my bread and butter for my career, but I just really enjoy like unwinding and making some fun stuff.
Well, it's cool. Like being creative, for me is a big part of my life, and it's been one of those things where I tried to strike it out as a professional photographer for a while, and didn't really work out like as a full-time sort of thing. So I do it on the side now, and I mentioned I did weddings for a while. Like wedding photography, as you kind of get started, is really the only way to make money in photography. But weddings are super stressful, and they're super time consuming, and they're very boring after a while because it's kind of the same thing over and over. So stepping back and kind of like now I call myself a portrait photographer. Like I just like taking portraits of people or landscapes.
Awesome.
So that's kind of like my goal as a photographer, is to like just take portraits of people because I find people interesting, and that's kind of what I do. And I guess this is a creative output for me as well, just talking to people.
Absolutely.
But like I've always been a fan of like people who can, who have drawing capabilities, because I stick figure man, and that's kind of all I've been able to do. So there's that aspect of it. But That's cool that it kind of runs in your family. My mom was a photographer a little bit when she was younger, so I feel like that's where I kind of got my inspiration, which is pretty neat. But you do so. You talk about your fan art, your altars.
Right.
That's what I think I first noticed you was some of your altars you had done that were. I think I saw you did a Damnation that was from Akira. I think it was Akira. Like this was a while ago.
It's a Armageddon Akira, yes.
There we go. And I was like, that's freaking cool. So, I'm just trying to. There's so many things I want to ask you. I'm just thinking. Okay, so what got you into doing like card altars or fan art for
I think what got me into it was I drew my friends' commanders for them as like altars because they were like, oh, like they just wanted like random anime ones, and I was like, yeah, I could probably do that on my iPad.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just took like photos of the card and just wound up drawing over it in Procreate and making the altar. And then I just had so much fun doing it, and what I enjoyed about it was I'm a big anime fan, and
I've kind of picked up on that from a few things. Yes.
Yes. Minus my candy.
Important.
But yeah, it was a way for me to kind of blend two things that I really enjoyed and also be creative with. So I started going through cards in my deck that I wanted to change, and I love Akira. It's one of my favorites, if you haven't noticed by the books and the motorcycle. So I saw that Armageddon, which is one of my favorite cards.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I like land destruction.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it does. It is. That's the competitive side of me. I want to win. So yeah, I decided to draw it as one of my favorite panels from the manga, and I posted it online. So I was like, this is so fun, and people wound up really liking it. So I started just posting some more little drawings that I had, and yeah, it was great taking a lot of like requests from people as well to like draw some of their favorite characters on a card as whatever card it is that they like, and how it like blended well. I did like a really cool Berserk altar, some cute Studio Ghibli ones. It's just really awesome to like be creative and also like find things that I like want to draw too.
Yes, I'm sure that makes a huge difference.
Because my other art side of it, of doing like homes and eateries and buildings, like there's a lot of times where I'll do commissioned work for someone, and I love doing it, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, okay, I'm drawing this person's, 2-story home in Brielle, and it is beautiful, and the end. But it's different when someone's like, oh, can you draw me this forest as Princess Mononoke? I'm like, absolutely I can, because it's like something I love,
Yeah.
So it's definitely nice to do art. Ooh, shook my whole desk. It's definitely nice to do art that I like, am passionate about, and like stoked on doing.
Yeah, when you can do art as a passion, it's a different sort of experience that you don't really get from anywhere else. There's a fulfillment to it. Are you? So I keep wording. I don't know if you're still taking requests, but like I've never had an altered art or anything, but with Neon Dynasty there's like that Toad Rider card, and I'm like, I wonder if Tori would do like a Jiraiya for me on.
Oh my god, one of my friends just asked me to do that. That's so funny.
Yeah, I was like, Jiraiya, and there's Naruto who does it, and like I got, this is gonna be like back in my day because I'm probably a little older than you, but like for me anime was like, I got Dragon Ball Z at 6 a.m. on Saturday mornings, like if and I got Ronin Warriors on Saturday, on Sundays or whatever, poorly dubbed, and like there's when Toonami came around and it was like, oh, Sailor Moon, like whatever, I'm gonna watch Sailor Moon, I don't care, and like you got new Dragon Ball Z, and I got like introduced to Gundam Wing, and then I think I got into Naruto in college. So the anime boom, as it were, if there was that Stonks meme, like it was a little before me, but like it's cool seeing how it's very mainstream and very like not there. There was obviously a little bit of I think a stigma back in the day for some people like with anime, but
there was. I got like heinously bullied when I was like in middle school for liking anime, and now I was like it's like very like good to like these things. It's like widely accepted to like anime, and I'm just like, oh my god, I want to go back in time and like shake seventh grade me for like getting rid of my books because I was like, oh, I shouldn't have these anymore. And now I'm just like, you idiot, you
Yeah.
threw away like OG manga.
Yeah, it's funny. I was really into Star Wars when I was younger, and I was like, I was known as like the Star Wars kid, not like the Star Wars kid. Like, well, I guess I did have a lightsaber and stuff, but not. But like, if you were to ask someone who went to like high school or elementary with me, like, oh, who was the Star Wars kid at your school? Like, they would definitely, oh, Drew. That was my thing. And now Star Wars is kind of like super mainstream, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's very similar with stuff like video games, especially now, are very mainstream, and like anime as well, which is good. Like people's interests, you shouldn't be bullied for your interests. Like you can. I think the only thing that really I ever was embarrassed that I liked was really into Power Rangers when I was little. Like that was like my big thing. But like, I didn't really care that people thought it was stupid. I was like, I don't freaking fighting putties and like giant robots. Like how can you not like this?
Yeah, I hear you. I was a big Hamtaro fan to the point where, like, when I was a child, I like made my AIM screen name like Hamtaro fan 92.
Hamtaro and his hams, like the little, they're pretty.
Yes, I had the house. I had all the figurines. I loved them.
That's funny. Yeah, they were pretty cute. Like I can't deny that the hams.
They're amazing, and the video game for Game Boy Color is fantastic.
Really,
it is
not a game I would have ever thought about playing, but maybe if it ever comes across my travels, as it were.
If I can find a way to emulate that, I will stream it.
Oh, what system is it on?
It was a Game Boy Color game.
Oh, okay. I'm sure there's a way.
There is a way. There is a will, so there is a way.
There's a way. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm totally serious about that Toad Rider altar. If Jiraiya or whatever,
absolutely.
I'll have to get with you because, yeah, the altered art or the dreaded P-word proxies. It's always like one of those conversations. Like for a long time, it never even really crossed my mind as like a thing. But there's a card game should be affordable. You know what I mean? There shouldn't like dual lands are cool, but like having to spend hundreds of dollars for a card in some instances people might deem necessary seems silly. There's I think like the idea of having to not have access to these cards because you just can't afford them. I think it kind of goes against the spirit of like a game in a lot of ways, like just any game in general. Like even you think about like basketball or football, like there are certain barriers because you need like padding and stuff, but I'm sure you could get fully decked out in a lot of sports for less than like a competitive mod. You know what I mean? It's just weird. Like there's so many cards that people really want to use, and the fact that you just can't. The stigma of like, well, if I just have versions that I can use on my own. I don't know. I think the unaccessibility of these cards is one of the biggest issues. Well, an issue that Magic does suffer from, especially with how competitive or how popular, I should say, formats like Commander are. Because like that's kind of the whole point of Commander is like it's one of the few formats where you can use these cards.
And I feel like that's totally okay. Like if you're gonna proxy cards for Commander, like go for it. It's a casual game. There's nothing, nothing holding you back from doing that unless you have people who tell you not to, in which that case it's just kind of weird in general to play with people who are like, don't proxy your Commander deck that we're playing for fun.
Yeah.
But I understand, like, there's two sides to the coin. Like, I totally am for proxies in Commander. I think sometimes it is silly to spend, thousands of dollars on a deck that you're just playing with your friends in the kitchen, or playing at a table with people just for fun, just to see how mechanics work, or just to, have a casual game. But I can understand, like, why certain cards aren't reprinted from, like, a collector standpoint, or, like, an art standpoint, or just as, like, a vintage collector piece.
Yeah.
So I can understand, like, where that market comes from. But I did see today somebody talking about, in my Discord, one of the local game stores by them decided to allow proxies, I believe proxied lands, in their legacy games because it was barring so many people from playing the format.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford the land base. So once they said, like, okay, you could proxy out your lands, or I've seen some stores will say you can proxy up to a price amount of cards to help you, more people showed up because they were able to play, and once they, do well and get store credit, they use it on the actual card.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like your skill in playing that card helped you get it. And it's also, I think proxies are great for playtesting.
Definitely.
Like my modern deck, my friend proxied the whole thing for me and said, like, here, try it out, make sure you like it before you sink $600 into something if you don't even like it. And once you buy these cards, you're not going to get back what you paid for them. Well, not most of the time. So I understand that it's kind of scary to be like, hey, shell out all of this money. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. So I totally understand.
Yeah, and obviously for like tournaments or sanctioned wizard events, like it makes sense that you would need the actual cards to use.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping, and I think who knows what's going to happen, but like, with Neon Dynasty, they had the what is it? Neon Ink, Heartless, Hideous, I don't know his name, but basically they had like the 5 versions, and like the red ink was the super duper rare version, and you could see that even with the same card with varying levels of accessibility, that red one is still very expensive compared to some of the other versions. So you could, for me, my hope is that you can point to this like, well, you know what, if you kind of just, I don't know, if they got rid of the reserve list kind of thing, or some of these older cards, like these, dual lands, if you reprinted dual lands like today with new art, whatever, like, I don't think you're really going to lose a lot of value of like your alpha, beta, unlimited versions, just because those are still, I mean, there's always going to be a market for like the original version of a card, and there's still going to be a limited amount of those compared to a newer version. So like, I don't know. It's really hard to, in my mind, to justify any card being worth more than $20. Like, in reality, like, I know that's kind of a silly and really an arbitrary number, but when you have, you're gatekeeping a lot of formats just at a price points. Like Legacy and Vintage. They just kind of, people might want to play those formats, but they can't because like, well, I'm not going to be able to afford the cards to play it. So I don't know. I'm hoping that this Neon Ink thing kind of says like, well, you can print cards in super duper rare version, and even look at like the masterpiece editions. A lot of times, some of those cards, a masterpiece Soul Ring is like I think $300, but you get a Soul Ring in every Commander starter deck. So like
for $2, yeah.
You know what I mean? So what's the
so clearly it doesn't really matter. Like if you really want it, it's still gonna be worth something. And I also am like the kind of person where like I have 2 dual lands from the revised edition, and if they like lost value by like $100, it probably wouldn't really affect me because I don't intend on selling that deck.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, it'll suck. I'll be like, no, that sucks. I wish I saved money on it. But like, I don't buy the cards that I buy with the intent on selling them.
Yeah.
I intend on like using them, playing them, and collecting them.
Yeah.
So this is again why anyone who feels barred by a price point should play Pauper.
Yeah, see, bring it back around to the Pauper world.
Tori, you don't need dual lands in Pauper.
Tori of the Pauper. Tori Pauper of the Vast. Tori Pauper. I don't know. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're a lot more clever than I am.
There's going to be plenty more Pauper content soon. I'm excited to put out.
That's cool. Yeah, I look forward to seeing that because that sounds like a fun and unexplored territory, at least for me and probably a lot of people in the Magic space. So that'll be pretty neat. So, so Tori, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Thank you again so much for sitting down with me.
Of course.
So before we kind of wrap up, I talk a lot about, you may have noticed, I say community a lot, about building community and whatever. So, in my efforts, as I choke to death live on camera, when I talk about building community, like I try to like put my money where my mouth is in a lot of ways. So, what I'm going to do is I have a community board. It's like it's actually it looks like a cork. It's a very poorly drawn 8-bit cork board, and I
amazing.
I make people's logos into pins. So I'm going to use the magic of video editing. I'm gonna pop it up right now and go boop, and there should be a noise. And so what I'm gonna do to kind of like again kind of build my community is I noticed you have an Etsy shop and you sell stickers, so I'm definitely gonna buy.
I do.
I'm gonna buy some stickers from you. I'm very excited about that. Probably not for a little bit because I guess there's like an Etsy. We're waiting.
There is an Etsy strike, but
so
if you want, you could just message me your address. I'll send you some stickers.
Oh, that's very.
Don't even worry about it.
That's very kind of you. So we'll sort that out for sure. I'm going to make a donation to the autism organization that you have in your LinkedIn profile. I know we've kind of talked about it. It's in your link tree, so I know that's probably important to you. And then once you start definitely getting your stream going or whatever, if you start streaming a little more, or even just if you don't, like, doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm gonna definitely start subbing to your stream, so the Show and Tell show will definitely be a consistent stream subscriber of yours. And yeah, I feel like it's like literally the least I can do to kind of help you, work and promote your content in the smallest way I can, as just like a thank you. And like, again, just trying to like, lift up these voices in our community that I think are important too. So honestly, it's like the smallest thing I can do for you. So I just, I look forward to.
I appreciate it.
I'm glad. I look forward. It makes me feel good to be able to kind of help you out as much as I can there. So, so again, I just want to, Tori, thank you again. This has been great. You've been a wonder to talk to, and I look forward to seeing all the great popper content from you, and hearing about your next modern top 8 finish, or however that that's gonna come. I feel it whenever the next event is. I don't. Is that? I mean, it's funny because I always hear people get top 8 finishes. I'm like, oh, they didn't top 8, but I guess that's hard to do. I mean, that's a really good thing. Top 8 finishes.
You can always count on me to be at the bottom 8 of SCG Con. I will be at Pittsburgh.
Oh, there you go.
So.
Awesome.
I might be playing Pauper there. We'll see.
There you go. If you're going to be in Pittsburgh, and then, I don't know. I think there's an event in Dallas that I'm not going. Are you going to be in Dallas? You think you're going to come out to Dallas?
I'm probably not going to be at Dallas because I have my best friend's wedding, so I won't be able to make the DreamHack. But I do anticipate on going to the other SCGs that are on the East Coast.
I do travel a lot for work, so I'm trying to keep an eye out. Are you going to do TwitchCon? Is that something that's on your radar at all? Is that?
I haven't really looked into it, but who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe I will.
It's in my backyard.
It's an excuse to go around.
It's in San Diego. I know that's kind of the next thing I'm going to be on vacation when the Dallas thing happens. So who knows? Hopefully at some time I'll be able to meet you in person and we'll get a game in. That's
definitely.
There's always spell table.
There is.
So awesome. So Tori, thank you very much again for coming on, and I look forward to seeing what you have to put out in the world.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking.
Awesome. Until next time.
Definitely.